I am very competitive. So
I know that.
I admit that. I hate losing. Most people do. I have lost plenty of times to know what that feels like. So we spent, I don't know, $8 million building out this app. I think we sold one car. Like, it was my first big idea. Like, we sold nothing. I think mistakes or losing, whatever you want to call it, are probably the most valuable tool that you can ever encounter, right? Now, there's two ways. You're always at a fork at the road when you lose, and I'll give you some examples, right? You always have a fork in the road, right? Do I put my head down? Do I try to cover it up? Do I try to make it not seem as bad as it was, right? Do I blame somebody else, which is a classic, right? It's somebody else's fault. The world is against me. Or do you say, how do I do better next time to not make that happen? What can I learn from my failure or my mistake that will make me better the next time I do something? It was a great learning, hard learning. I was devastated, but you know.
But you were not paralyzed by it. You were basically pushed.
Never get paralyzed. I mean, maybe for an hour, right? And then you pick yourself up and you say, all right, what can I learn from this?
Something you have to unlearn to become who you are today.
Don't trust anybody. Do it all yourself, right? You need to make sure that you're surrounded by very talented people, and talented people only want to be around people who will give them the freedom to grow and learn and do great things.
After you saw that, how did you celebrate? What was your victory lap?
So I think we barbecued in the backyard. I've always had that perseverance, that endless quest to be better, to learn, and to be the best at whatever it is I'm doing. Whether, you know, I think sometimes you never accomplish being the best, but the journey is what's so instructive about it.
So you married a Colombian woman.
I did.
Beautiful Colombian woman. Any funny stories?
I love my wife more than anything. Oh, don't get her angry.
Today on Chaban Podcast. Chaban Podcast is presented by Yes You Can, your healthy lifestyle with a Latin flavor. Yes You Can Medical, the telemedicine platform that brings you closer to your best version. Visit now yesyoucanmedical.com.
Hola, hola. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Chaban Podcast. I'm so grateful you guys are here. Whether you've been with me since day one or this is your very first time tuning in, thank you so much. This space was created for you, for me, for real heart-opening conversations that help us all grow, help us heal, evolve, and build that life that we truly deserve. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button right now so we can keep expanding this incredible community. And of course, a huge shout out to our amazing partners at yesyoucan.com who continue to support this mission with the best tools for a healthy lifestyle. Today, I'm super excited. I want to start with something I deeply believe, which is success leaves clues. But to follow those clues, we have to ask the right questions, surround ourselves with the right people, and we have to look at the beliefs behind every single breakthrough, right? I want to share something very personal with all of you. I was born in Venezuela to immigrant grandparents who fled war and started from zero, literally zero. They started from scratch. My grandparents were hustlers. They were dreamers. They were doers. They sold shoes door to doors, fruits door to door. They opened a small restaurant. They built these small businesses with nothing but grit, nothing but ambition, right? And with that came a belief system passed down to me. Alejandro, if you own a business, or better yet, when you own your own business, you have to work 24/7. You don't trust anybody. You don't delegate to anybody. You do it all yourself because that's how you build true legacy. That's what my grandfather, also named Alejandro, taught me when I was like 8 years old. And as an 8-year-old, I totally believed it, right? So I thought success in business meant building something you keep forever. like a house, like a last name. A company you pass down like a family treasure. But over time, I began noticing a different kind of success, right? One that involved scaling, collaborating, and knowing when to step aside to actually grow even bigger. And I asked myself, okay, how do they do that? What do they have to believe to grow a company and then sell it, right? Is this a mindset? Is this a skill? Is it a blueprint? I want to learn from those people. I want to learn from the best. And I want you to learn with me, because we're not just here to chase success. We're here to understand it. And that means studying the mindset behind it. So today is a great day. I have the honor of sitting down with someone I deeply admire, not just for what he's built, but for how he thinks, how he leads, and how he lives. He's known for his billion-dollar exits. He's sold companies worth over $63 billion. He's been iconic brands like Botox and Hydrofacial. And today, he's the CEO of Bausch & Lomb. And beyond the boardroom, he's built also a beautiful family. And also, he married a powerful, beautiful Latina woman. So welcome to the Chaban Podcast, my good friend, Brent Saunders.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
I know. I'm super excited, Brent. I'm ready to jump into all the questions. And
I'm a little nervous now.
Oh, you should feel my heart. I'm not joking. I'm literally excited about having you.
Yeah.
So before we dive into, your success story, I want to understand, where did it all begin? How did it all get started when you were an 8-year-old? How was that little Brent?
I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in me, and I always worked hard. So I was the kid who would wake up at 4:30 in the morning and deliver the newspapers. Many of your audience don't probably remember people delivering a newspaper, but yes, we used to, go. My brother and I had the paper route for our community, and we would deliver the paper, every day. Sunday was the biggest paper and the hardest to do. I grew up in the northeast of the country, so we had bad weather, snow, ice, right? And we were up in the pitch dark delivering papers. We'd go to school, come back, and then we would cut grass, do landscaping, shovel people's driveways in the snow. So my brother and I were always hustling and starting businesses or making money. And my parents were just, what are you doing? Do better at school. Don't worry about working so much.
So who taught you that? Like, who taught you to get up in the morning and hustle?
I don't think, my father was a community doctor and worked very hard. My mother worked as well. So both my parents, worked. I didn't have a stay-at-home mom. And maybe it was just emulating, being around parents who were always working as well. They were very supportive, very loving, but they were also, very committed to their careers and hard work. I think it I can't say for sure, but it had to have come from my parents.
Yeah. What values did your family basically pass down?
My family always focused probably on three things: the value of family, right? The importance of family being the most important. They focused on education, and they pushed very hard on making sure their three kids were studied, did their homework. We weren't allowed to watch TV. We had to read books before we went to bed, right? They were pretty tough on stuff like that. And then lastly, I think they really supported my brother and I. I have an identical twin brother. That's why I said, so we were partners in almost everything, on starting all these businesses or being active entrepreneurs.
Being a twin, did that make you more competitive?
I don't think I was ever competitive with my brother. To be fair, I am very competitive. So I
know that.
I admit that.
Yes You Can is the #1 nutrition system for Latinos in the United States. It features supplements made with natural, clinically proven ingredients and designed in a 3-phase plan to detoxify, transform, and maintain your best version. Visit yesyoucan.com today and get started.
Daniela says so.
Yeah. I mean, I hate losing. Most people do. I have lost plenty of times to know what that feels like. but I think that's just something that developed in me over time. I've always had this kind of use the word grit, which is one of my favorite words in the opening. I've always had that perseverance, that endless quest to be better, to learn, and to be the best at whatever it is I'm doing. Whether, I think sometimes you never accomplish being the best, but the journey is what's so instructive about it.
What did losing teach you? You said you've lost before.
Yeah.
Do you have an example, and what did that teach you? Because sometimes we're in the, in the winning career, and we just don't really, stop and think about, sometimes those obstacles become our biggest opportunity.
Yeah, look, I say this to my teams all the time. I think mistakes or losing, whatever you want to call it, are probably the most valuable tool that you could ever encounter, right? Now, there's two ways. You're always at a fork at the road when you lose, and I'll give you some examples, right? You always have a fork in the road, right? Do I put my head down? Do I try to cover it up? Do I try to make it not seem as bad as it was, right? Do I blame somebody else, which is a classic, right? It's somebody else's fault. The world is against me. Or do you say, how do I do better next time to not make that happen? What can I learn from my failure or my mistake that will make me better the next time I do something? And I've always been on that journey, right? And so, for example, the first big job I got in corporate America was to run consumer products for a company called Schering-Plough, which no longer exists. It was acquired by Merck 20-some years ago. And my brands at the time were like Claritin, Dr. Scholl's, Coppertone, Afrin. I created Miralax, so a bunch of brands, right? And so the first big idea I had was I had watched Oprah had a segment around the neti pot, which was this saline solution. You put up one nostril and came down the other. Now it's, you can buy it in the drugstore, but this was like revolutionary. This was 20-some years ago. And I said, well, we make this drug Afrin, oxymetazoline, you spray in your nose. I said, why don't we create one out of isotonic seawater called Afrin Pure Sea? The data is pretty good. Oprah's already popularized it. So we spent, $8 million building out this app. I think we sold one. Like, it was my first big idea. Like, we sold nothing, right? And I took a lot of time thinking about what did I do wrong? Like, what would you learn? And a lot of it was I didn't understand the power of the brand. And the brand Afrin itself is a very, very heavily medicated brand. So people didn't associate that brand with a very natural product. It was a dichotomy, and it just fell so flat. And so as I've launched new brands over the last 20 years, I always try to make sure the imagery and the brand is consistent with the product. And it was a great learning, hard learning. I was devastated, but,
But you were not paralyzed by it. You were basically pushed.
I never get paralyzed. I mean, maybe for an hour, right? And then you pick yourself up and you say, all right, what can I learn from this?
Looking to reset your body and take control of your health? Discover how GLP-1 medications can help balance your hormones, control insulin, reduce hunger, and help you feel fuller longer. All with expert medical guidance every step of the way. Just fill out a quick questionnaire at yesyoucanmedical.com and get your medication delivered straight to your door. No contracts, no subscriptions, just real support. Your healthy transformation starts today at yesyoucanmedical.com. What happens through your mind when you get paralyzed for an hour? Like what do you tell yourself? Because it's that conversation right in our heads. You either say, we're worthless. See, my dad told me,
right. Well, I'll come to my dad told me I was worthless thing, because I have a philosophy around that too. But that being said, I usually go through, I am so stupid. Like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? And that takes about 2 minutes, right? And then I say to myself, all right, what can I learn from it? What would you have done differently the next time, right? And then I quickly pivot to making it much more of a constructive conversation in my head. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. What's something you have to unlearn to become who you are today?
I'll go to something your grandfather said in the opening, that don't trust anybody, do it all yourself, right? And as you scale a business, I think you realize that the most valuable asset in any business is the people who work there. And so you do need to trust them. You do need to let people have freedom to operate and make their own mistakes and learn and get better, and coach and mentor them. But that's not a natural instinct of an entrepreneur who wants to do everything themselves, right? And just like your grandfather said, at some level, sure, you always think you're the best at everything, or if you want a job done well, do it yourself.
Yeah.
But the reality is, at scale, you can't do that. And you need to make sure that you're surrounded by very talented people, and talented people only want to be around people who will give them the freedom to grow and learn and do great things.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
When you are thinking about scale, what do you focus on? Do you focus on people? Do you focus on structure? Do you focus on what's your success blueprint when growing and scaling a company?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it probably, number one, number two, number three are talent and people. If you take a big company like my current company, Bausch & Lomb, about 14,000 employees operating in over 100 markets around the world. I make medicines and lasers and OTC products and vitamins, everything for the eye, right? And when you think about our product cycle, because most of our things are regulatory approved, it ranges from 3 years to 10 years to create a new product, right? You think about the only other ingredient to our company that I can manage, and let's say I'm there 10 years or 15 years, is the talent of the people. And that's really where I can have the most impact, and they can have the most impact then on our customers. And so I really spend a lot of time, almost every day, thinking about talent. Do we have the right people? Who can I mentor? Who can I coach? Who can I, give constructive feedback to? And how do I push my team to push their teams to bring the best out of our people?
What do you look for when you're hiring? Like, what's that?
So you use the word, so it is my number one thing. I've had the author come and talk to my company. I've read the book multiple times, but grit. There's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, Angela Duckworth. She wrote a book called Grit. And I really view it almost as the gospel for how to assess talent and who do you want to be around. And she did this study, right, to prove it, that said, okay, West Point wanted to know, why do so many cadets drop out during Hell Week? And so they were looking at, they invest so much, a senator has to sponsor you, right? They invest so much, and these are the best of the best, right? Kids going into West Point. And they couldn't figure out what can they do better in their admission criteria to figure out who would be successful and finish the course. And they looked at academics, they looked at physical fitness, they looked at, a variety of different metrics, and they couldn't, it didn't correlate. The data didn't work. And so she came up with a grit score. It basically looked at people's determination, perseverance, resiliency, willingness to learn, right, and a few other factors. And that became, and the West Point uses it to this day, right, became the score that they use. And as you really understand, who do you want to be around? It may not be the Ivy League, credentialed person with a great piece of paper on their diploma. It's really someone with a lot of grit, right? People who are willing to really be determined to be successful, have that fire in the belly, who want to be better at what they do. They're not arrogant. They have just this endless desire to learn and be better. And I think that epitomizes you from, right? And it epitomizes me. But I always recommend, even, I say to my wife, it's a great book to read about raising children. It's really a terrific book, and I'm not a big business book reader.
You're not?
I'm not. I don't read a lot of business books, but that one I would highly recommend.
Okay. I'll also post it right below so people can go and click it and get it. So talking about business, I have so many questions about business. I'm like ready. How did you first learn, right? Because I learned you keep a company forever and you pass it down to your children and your grandchildren. And then I moved to the US, I meet people like you, right? And I'm like, how did Brent learn, right, that a company should grow in order to be sold? Like, is that something that you learned? Is it something that you go to school for? Like, who taught you that?
Yeah, I don't think you learn it. And I'm not sure all companies are grown to be sold. It depends,
okay,
right, what your objective is. And the type of business you're in. I think in my world, in the pharmaceutical, healthcare, medical device world, our customers consolidated, right? And so if you go back just not that long ago, maybe your audience won't remember, but you used to have a community pharmacy. You used to have, you didn't have managed care. You didn't have insurance. Now you're down to, Rite Aid's out of business or bankrupt. It's Walgreens and CVS. You have United Healthcare, Aetna, and Humana, right? It's just the customer world has consolidated, and their strength became so severe that the pharmaceutical industry had to consolidate as well to keep up with it. And so, you have to look at secular trends or trends in your industry to understand which way the wind is blowing and what's strategically the right thing for the business.
How do you know when a company should be sold or should be basically?
I think you have to start by strategic logic, right? First, you have to say, does scale matter, right? You're generally selling to get scale, right? Or create cost synergies, right? Or, even better, if you can find revenue synergies. If I'm selling, if we're both selling to the same customer at a customer acquisition cost of roughly the same, but if we combined our portfolio, we could cut that in half, then there's a synergy, right? And so I think you have to really think strategically, does 1 + 1 equal something more than 2, right? And then, of course, financially, does it make sense, right? Is the premium and time value of money that you're going to get today for selling more valuable to you or your shareholders, whoever you're selling the business on behalf of, than riding it out for the next several years, right? Incorporating all the risks of execution and everything else in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when someone comes and say, I want to grow my business, when do you choose organic growth versus inorganic growth?
Again, it's very fact-based kind of situation. I think you have to say all deals, buying or selling, is there a strategic rationale, and then do the financials make sense? Some people start with the money and then try to fit back into does this make sense strategically?
Yeah.
I always say start with, what's the strategic rationale? Can I explain? If you can't explain the reason why the deal is good in what I call the elevator pitch in 30 seconds or less, then it's probably not a good idea, right? If I have to have a PowerPoint presentation and really think about it for an hour, should I buy this or should I sell this? The answer is probably that's probably not the right deal, right? Because it's just so complex.
Okay.
So it should be pretty intuitive strategically. Like, you explain it to me in 30 seconds, I'm like, that makes sense. And then, of course, the numbers, right? Then you need to spend a whole lot more time really digging in to see if the financials make sense. And that requires more of a microscopic, analytical approach. But strategically, if you don't have it quick, then don't do it.
Wow. When someone comes to you and say, "Hey, Brent, I want to sell my company," what's your advice? Where do they begin?
Well, the first question I would ask is why.
Okay.
Right? Are they tired? Are they not happy doing it anymore? Do they feel they've hit the ceiling? And if so, is that just because they need more coaching, or they truly have, right? What's the real reason why you want to sell? And I will tell you, people do come to me, and I would say, 8 or 9 times out of 10, when they start to explain to me, I'm like, you don't really want to sell. You're just having a bad week. You're aggravated. Somebody quit or somebody sued you, right? And you're aggravated. You really don't want to sell. But every once in a while you get to I'm ready to retire. I have grandchildren. I want to, my kids don't want the business, whatever it may be. And then you're like, okay, yep. So let's figure out what's the best way to set up a process to sell that. Who may be interested, how many strategic, acquirers would there be? Is there private equity that would be interested? If so, can you get more than one? Because nothing's worse than trying to sell your business and only have one bidder, right? You want to have a competitive process.
Yeah, and I think it's also like when I think about my own journey, like it also sometimes it could be so tied to your identity, right? Your job or your title, it's so attached to. How do you separate those?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you, and I think what you're saying is, work becomes your passion, right? And becomes your life.
Yeah.
And it does for me too. I have a wonderful family, a beautiful wife, as you mentioned. But, I love to work, and I really do try to balance family and work. But that's really all I do. I don't have a lot of other hobbies. And I have a hard time, separating the two. I'll admit I struggle with that. I get very passionate about the companies I work with. I like to, during COVID, when I sold Allergan, the maker of Botox, as you mentioned earlier, to AbbVie, I had about a year and a half where I was just doing some of my own things, and I just wasn't happy. I needed to be back in the seat, full steam ahead.
Wow.
And I knew that about myself, and I would talk to my wife about it. I'm like, I got to go back. Like, I need, it's just who I am. The intellectual challenge of building great teams and doing great things is just so invigorating for me.
After you saw that, how did you celebrate? What was your victory lap?
Looking for your dream getaway? Vista Cana in the heart of Punta Cana is more than just a destination. It's a lifestyle. Whether you're looking for affordable luxury, a connection with nature, or a smart investment, Vista Cana has it all. Come and experience the future in paradise. Visit vistacana.com today.
Well, we closed in May of 2020. And if you remember what was happening in May of 2020, people thought the world was coming to an end. That was the beginning of the very early beginning of the COVID hysteria. So there was you couldn't travel. You couldn't do anything. So I think we barbecued in the backyard.
So you would have thought that you were going to celebrate with this big party.
I was thinking maybe a trip with my wife or something, but no, it was just I think we got some fish and vegetables and barbecued in the backyard. Yeah.
Once we were having coffee, and you told me that it takes a different skill set to take a company from 20 million to 100 million, and then to 100 million to 500 million. What do you mean, and what are those differences?
Yeah, I'll go back to what we were saying earlier. We touched on it. As you scale a company and you go from, let's say, 0 to 10 million, maybe it's you and a handful of employees, right? And then when you go to 20 million, it's a lot more. And then you get to 40 or 50 million, and maybe you don't know everybody's name as well as you probably should who works there. And then as you go to 100 million, you maybe recognize some faces, but you don't know everybody who works in your company anymore. And so you really, really have to trust the team around you, right? And you have to have great levels of talent throughout the organization that buy into the mission, that buy into the culture, that buy into the value of the enterprise, right? And people you trust, right? They don't have to be your best friends, but they have to be people that you enjoy working with, that you respect, that you can learn from. Even if they work for you, you can learn from people. And you really need to build a great organization. And that's a different skill than doing everything yourself, right?
Yeah. It changes. It completely changes. And I think you also have to think about so many other, versions of the business that, when you're starting, you're just thinking about the marketing and out there. And then you really start to think about all other aspects of the business, right?
Yeah, it's certainly, the financials become more complex. Working capital, right? Accounts receivable, accounts payables, billing, invoicing, taxes, right? All that stuff becomes much more payroll, benefits, right?
Yeah.
And so all those things, become more professionalized the bigger you come, but you need people who really know how to do that stuff.
Yeah. You study law, so you're a lawyer, right?
I don't like to admit it, but I did go to law school, yes. Yeah.
What made you pivot from the courtroom to the boardroom?
So I really never practiced law.
Okay.
My first semester.
I also went to law school, right?
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
All right, so we have another comment. So we're both reformed lawyers. That the more lawyers we can take out of the system. No, I'm joking. I have some great lawyers I work with, so I'm teasing.
They're great.
My first semester of law school, I said to myself, "This is not for me." And then at that moment, I said, do I drop out or do I finish? And I said, you know what? I started this, and I'm a big believer. If you start something, finish it. So I'm just going to power through and try to do really well, which I did, and get out on the other end. And then I went to business school at night and started consulting, and never really practiced law for maybe a year. I think I practiced. So it was quick.
Yeah, I also found out literally while I was in like my first semester, I was like, this is not for me. This is not something I want to pursue.
No, it was a great education though.
Yeah. It's a great experience. And now, like running the company and, running different aspects of my life, it helps, right?
Yeah.
You look at the contracts from a different perspective, but
yeah, and I actually think it helped me. It probably doesn't matter now that we have ChatGPT and stuff like that, but it helped me, write better, read more critically, analyze things better. So,
Yeah.
I got a lot of good skills out of it. Yeah.
You just mentioned ChatGPT. When you don't know something, what's your move? Like, do you call someone? Do you call a mentor? Do you go to ChatGPT right now?
I do use ChatGPT. I do like it. I think it's an amazing tool. But, I'm a big reader too. So I start every morning pretty much the same, around 5:30 every morning. Having a cup of coffee, reading the news. I read the same stuff, the Wall Street Journal cover to cover. I go through industry trade magazines and articles. Then I look at the general news, and then I check X because I like my feed the way I curated my feed on X. I have all different points of views. And then I go to the gym, and then I go to the office. And so, when I don't know something, I tend to I still Google a lot, and I look for really thoughtful articles about a problem. If it's a scientific issue, I'll go to science journals. If it's a business problem, I'll look at Harvard Business Review. I'll go to other places like that. Or I'll call people. I'll call mentors, or I'll call people, other CEOs or friends or board members, and say, hey, have you ever encountered this before? How do you do that? Right? I've read a little bit, but what do I do? Right? And I do that regularly, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, success leaves clues, right?
So that goes back to grit, that endless quest to want to learn. Like I'm always trying to teach myself something new, and I love it.
Have you ever felt like you didn't belong? Like sometimes you get, to groups or to, group of people that you don't know or people that you consider more successful or smarter. Have you ever felt like, I don't belong here? Or
I probably have. I think what immediately comes to mind is when I was I became a CEO very young of a Fortune 500 company, and I remember joining the Business Roundtable, which is people like Jamie Dimon and Jeff Bezos and other people I've met there, and I remember showing up at the meetings for the first year thinking like, how do I fit into this group, right? Like, what am I doing here? That's probably the most vivid memory I have of feeling that way.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter, right? In the end, it all worked out and it was fine. But I remember feeling a little awkward.
Do you, have you always been popular or the winner, or have you ever felt like the underdog? Like when you were a kid?
I'm sure I have, but, I always, as president of my class in high school, I was president of student government in college. I was president of like everything I was editor-in-chief of the Law Review. So I always felt like if I was going to do something, I would try to do the best I possibly can to be the best at it. And if I could, I'd like to lead it. And even if I have to invest 10 years, right? I remember when I started in my first big job at Sharing Plow, we were talking about earlier, I said to myself, I'm going to come, I want to be CEO one day. And I remember talking to the then CEO, and he's like, yeah, whatever, right, kid? Don't worry. And so I still see him. He's a great mentor of mine. And he says to me, I remember you coming in thinking, there's no way this kid will ever be a CEO. He said, but I kept throwing stuff at you, and you would exceed my expectations, and I give you something harder, crazier, and you would exceed. And for 8-9 years, you just did that. And I kept promoting you. And he said, you just kept doing it.
Do you think that's something that you're born with it, or is it muscle that you develop?
I think it's both. I think you're born with the desire, the passion, the fire, the grit, maybe. And then I think you have to be disciplined and work hard. There's no substitute, right, for hard work. As much as people like to try to find it or think it exists, it's like the fountain of youth. It doesn't exist, right?
You tell us. You know all the secrets.
Well, we can ask Ponce de Leon, but it doesn't exist, right? And there are no shortcuts in life, right? And so, Michael Jordan didn't become the best basketball player by taking Saturdays off or feeling bad for himself, right? He played a rigorous schedule, practiced every day, practiced on weekends, he actually loved the game. He played for fun. But I think it's like anything else. You see a great athlete, you see someone who's really accomplished something in their career professionally, and they make it look easy. So you think it's easy. The reality is they work their ass off to get there, and they continue to work their ass off every day. And even if they make it look easy, they're going home and they're studying, they're reading, they're preparing. They're reading every financial detail. They're going through spreadsheets, right, to come in and make it look easy every day.
Wow. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Talking about the fountain of youth, what do you see in the future of healthcare and beauty?
Yeah, so very connected to that space. Have built a lot of great brands and products in that space.
Why did you choose health?
It probably was the job I had while I was in law school was in a hospital. And so and my father was a doctor. So I think I was just very comfortable in that space. And it may sound a little corny, maybe is the right word, but like this idea that you can make something and sell it, or you can make something that helps somebody and sell it, right? Or the mission of doing that feels a lot better than just making a stapler, right? I know it can help you put paper together, but it's not the same as helping somebody with asthma or diabetes, right?
Or Botox.
Right. Hey, but and I think it's still true today. We sold more Botox for therapeutic use than aesthetic.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
It's an amazing therapeutic drug for spasticity disorders, movement disorders, migraines. If you had a kid with cerebral palsy and they inject their legs, they can walk again. It's truly an amazing drug.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So where's that going? How do you see the future of healthcare and beauty? Where's that?
Yeah, I think I invest a lot personally in this space. I'm really excited about the science that's emerging into this space. I think what you're going to start to see is a lot of the beauty industry is based on marketing, fancy packaging, marketing claims, right? The fountain of youth, this and that. The reality is you're just buying very expensive sunscreen. It sits on the top of your skin, doesn't penetrate, it doesn't do anything, right? And I think what you're seeing come out now is real science going into looking for ways to actually solve the underlying causes of aging of skin or senescence of skin. And so I think the next couple of years is going to be super exciting from that perspective. I think you're going to see some amazing products with new, novel, approaches to skin health, skin anti-aging, if you will, or skin rejuvenation. Yeah.
What's your take on GLP-1s, for example?
And look, I think they're wonder drugs. I think for those people who really struggle, I think they're incredibly important.
Yeah. I believe the Hispanic demographic is one of the fastest and growing demographic in the U.S. How do you guys talk to that consumer? How do you guys target that consumer authentically, both in English and Spanish?
Yeah, so we really try to focus. Well, first of all, we're very regulated on how we connect with our customers. So unlike we're probably the most regulated communication in corporate America, right? Everything has to go through the FDA and be approved. That being said, we do everything in English and Spanish. We do support a lot of education among Spanish-speaking physicians. And we certainly try to partner more with in the community events. But it's not as easy as other consumer products because we can't have. There's HIPAA rules. I can't know
TikTok
who's on
shop.
Yeah, I can't know we're not even, well, we're working on it, but eye drops aren't even allowed on the TikTok shop right now. They're starting to open that up for us just as we speak. Yeah.
Do you also see that trend? Do you also see that like fractions sector growing and evolving?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm contributing to it, you know.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who's half Hispanic. So, yeah.
So, how does it feel to be a dad now versus before? What has changed?
I mean, you know, it's always been special, right? I have all girls and you know, they're incredibly important to me. But, you know, having a happy, healthy home is great. My wife is the most amazing thing in my life. My kids are so special to me and so important. And having a baby in the house is just, you know, it makes you feel young. You go home, you get on the floor, you play with her, right? It's just, it's great. And my older kids who are out of the house now, actually one's visiting this weekend, but, you know, it's nice having kids in the house on a full-time basis. It's tough to go home to an empty house, right? I like that. Maybe I'm a junkie, right? I like the activity at the office. I like to go home to have, you know, a lot of stuff going on. My wife, you know, at home, my although she's building her own business as well, but you know, just this idea of being around people you love and enjoy being with.
Do you think that as a leader, as an entrepreneur, have your priorities changed over time?
You know, they probably have, not intentionally. I think just over evolution. So you know, when I was starting out, I traveled a whole lot more, right? You know, as I was explaining when my boss gave me an assignment, you know, one of those assignments was to integrate a company based in the Netherlands. So I went to the Netherlands every week. I would leave on Sunday night, come back Thursday for a year, right? So I don't think I would do that today. Right. I just, you know, as I've gotten older, I can't deal with the time difference as well as I used to acclimate when I was younger. But, you know, we also have better technology. We didn't have Teams or Zoom back then. And so, you know, if you had to have a meeting, you jumped on an airplane. And so I really am much more selective about my travel now. I do travel. I was just in London 2 weeks ago, and I'm going back for another meeting next week. And then, you know, I go all over the world, but you know, I really, if I'm doing it, I make it very worthwhile, and it has to be a real strong reason. Otherwise, let's just do a Teams meeting.
Where do you intentionally invest your time now? Because we have, you know, 24 hours, and probably before it was just work. Now, if you've learned, where do you, you know, intentionally really say, I'm going to focus on these few things?
You know, I've always been the same. My focus on two things, my family and my job. I will tell you the one thing I started doing about 3 months ago, that maybe 4 months ago, that's really been a game changer for me. I've been focused on my wear the Oura ring, right? I've been focused on really probably one of the most important longevity factors, which is sleep. I've never been a great sleeper. And so I've been really trying to focus on how do I improve my sleep, and falling asleep at night has always been hard. I've always been an early riser, but I want to go to bed earlier. And so now, you know, I really make a conscious effort somewhere around 8:30 to put down my phones for the night.
Wow.
And my work phone and my personal phone. And I've been doing it really, really disciplined, with maybe one or two exceptions when I've had a big deal or financing going on, where I'll keep it around me. But I've added about 25 minutes on average to my sleep by just doing that. And that's a big jump.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's been, you know, really helpful to get that blue light away from you. The you know, all the other proteins in your brain that get stimulated by looking at Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And I just stopped. And I barely even go on social media anymore. I really have limited my exposure to it.
Why?
Because I don't think it's healthy. And I think it's a waste of time.
Cortisol.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there are people who make their living or promote products through it, but that's not, I don't get a lot of professional benefit out of it personally. I'm not saying what I do is right for everybody, but I think I was decaying along with the social media. I'd rather read a book, right, than spend time looking at people's friends and family's pictures on Instagram.
Yeah. Where do you get your oxytocin? Where do you get your excitement? Where do you get your peace from right now?
I would say mostly with family, hugging my wife, playing with the baby, right? Calling my older daughters in New York, hanging out with my stepdaughter, whatever it may be. Like, for me, that's like, I just love it. I'm at peace. It's great. Look, times aren't always great. Inevitably, one kid or somebody has a problem, right? But, I don't get stressed about it like I used to. I take it all in stride.
How do you handle problems now versus before?
I used to get more agitated, maybe, or emotional. I've really worked on it over the last 5-6 years of really being much more thoughtful. If someone comes to me with a problem, I'll say, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. I can get back to it in 10 minutes, or maybe it's an hour, maybe it's the next day. But I don't feel that need to immediately respond to every issue, even in crisis, right? Because I don't think you're giving your best thought when it's instantaneous like that. At least for me, maybe I'm not as fast as some other people, but I need time to process. And sometimes it's a few minutes, and sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's longer. Sometimes I need to triangulate and get other people's point of view on what the problem is or why it occurred, right? Versus just listening to one person tell me what happened and trying to answer on the cuff, right?
That's very interesting. When you encounter problems, do you focus on the gap or the gain? Like, do you focus on the glass half full, half empty?
If you know people who know me, I'm an internal optimist. So I look at every problem as an opportunity, right? And so, what's the expression? You make lemonade out of lemon, whatever you want to use, right? I always look for that angle. Maybe it's because it makes me feel better, and that gives me some oxytocin, right? But I really do think that most great leaders are optimists, right? And they have a vision, and they're not going to let a few bumps in the road or twists and turns, all journeys have them, become the focal point.
You've said before, I was watching one of your interviews, and you've said that you don't have a pedigree. What do you mean?
Well, I didn't go to Ivy League schools or I've just worked hard. And I've been with great people. I've had the great fortune of great mentors and people I could learn from. But I went through the state school system of Pennsylvania. So, got 3 great degrees, undergraduate law school and business school, but at a great bargain price back in the day. Sometimes, it's the Harvard Business School Club or whatever in the CEO ranks. I'm not part of that group.
Can you teach that formula, or is that something like, is it a blueprint that you can apply to every single thing you do now?
Well, what I say is, like we were talking about, I look for people with grit that I want to mentor, but I also look at people who have a little bit of selflessness, right? Who aren't going to leave just because someone pays them a few $1,000s more, right? At the next, who aren't going to just chase, right? Who really want to be committed to what you're doing, the mission, their colleagues, the people they're recruiting into the company, right? I'm looking for real deep-seated commitment and passion, and then I'm all in with that person too.
It's super interesting because we talk about billions of dollars, and when you search your name, it comes billions of dollars of money. What's your relationship with money now? What's your concept, right, about money? Because when you're younger, probably that's all you can think of, and then does that change?
It does change. You're right. When my brother and I were delivering newspapers or shoveling driveways, right, it was always about how much money can we make. I don't think of it that way anymore, and I know that's a luxury that I have, and I'm very grateful that I can do it that way. I really think about what I want to accomplish, and money is perhaps a scorecard, but it's not an accomplishment, right? And so, for me, it's more about, can my children all be happy? we invent a new drug to solve an unmet medical need? Can we get a new product out that will help a customer better service their patients, right?
Wow.
Like those are great. Like when I see a TV commercial, or I go into the drugstore, I hear a patient talk about something we developed that made them, see better, to live better. And I have an eye infection, so if you see, I understand the problem of having an eye problem, my first ever eye infection. But yeah, I mean that's the real gratification.
Is it a belief? Like, is there a certain belief that you have to have around money in order to create more money? Right now, since you have, sold companies for billions of dollars, is there a specific belief you have to have in order to basically materialize things like that, big things like that?
I don't think so. I mean, look, let's not be naive. Money makes things easier.
Yeah.
Right. There's no doubt about it.
Expands who you already are.
Right. But I think there's I've met so many great entrepreneurs, and even here in Miami, you meet so many great entrepreneurs who string things together and get things started and turn them into great businesses. And then, people from a business perspective, you look at that whether you like their politics or not, but you have to admire what they've accomplished. A guy like Elon Musk, he can't be working for money, right? He's working to get people to Mars or robots in your house or whatever it may be, right? Like he has these goals that are, totally different than earning another $1 billion, right? And so, you have to Tim Cook at Apple, same thing, right? I mean, another $1 billion isn't going to change those guys' lives, but yet they work so hard and they go to work every day, right? Yeah. And so, I think it's that grit, that determination, that love or passion for creating things that's so inspiring.
How do you define success today?
I think everybody should have their own formula for success. And there's not every day you're going to feel successful, and so you shouldn't measure success on a day-to-day basis, right? But look at it over a year or maybe every 6 months. Like, did I succeed, right? Because if you look at it every day, there's going to be days where you have a bad day or something doesn't work, right?
It's like sales, right?
Right, and then the customer didn't react to me the right way, or they were having a bad day. It's not, so sometimes it's just not your fault, right? Timing doesn't, and so looking at it, it's like checking a stock every hour, right? It doesn't matter, right? You can't check in that much. It doesn't matter that much. So, I think success should be based upon what your goals are, right? And is success for you getting a promotion? Is success for you being able to buy a house or a new car? What is success? Is it about getting your kids into a great college? It depends what it is, but what are you going to do then over the next year or two to help those things happen, right? And break it down into small pieces, and then don't be a relentless measure. Take stock every week, every month, every quarter, but don't look at it on an hourly, daily basis.
Do you set goals annually, quarterly?
In our world, we set them annually because Wall Street makes us kind of set them annually. But
how about you, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think about my goals every year, and I write them down.
Okay.
And I try to limit it to 3 or 4. I don't think you want to have too many goals.
28 goals.
Right. And as an example, one of my goals this year is to really focus on talent around me and in my company. And I've been pretty relentless about that with the team this year. And I think we're making headway. It's become a really important part of our HR and development programs. And so, that was one of my goals at the beginning of the year. And I do think about it almost every day.
It's like where focus goes, energy flows. So if all your,
But if you have 20 goals, you're going to be diluted. Yeah. No human can accomplish.
Yeah. And then you do, 1%.
Well, they're not real goals. They're silly things.
So true. For you, IQ versus EQ.
I would say EQ is probably a hair more important, or maybe a bit more important, because I know a lot of really smart people who can't get much done, right? And if you're not good around people, or you're an individual contributor, maybe you can code write code in your basement and have low EQ. But I think to work amongst colleagues and everybody else to be successful, you have to have a good EQ.
What do you think that is? Why do you think some people cannot achieve success even though they have
great IQs? Yeah, I mean, I think interpersonal skills matter. I think being able to lead people, to inspire people, to learn from people. And so just raw intelligence is like a unpolished, piece of metal, right? And that polish is that EQ that makes it so everybody wants to hold it, look at it, and be a part of it.
Wow. In building your tribe, we have talked about, success leaves clues, and you've said that you surround yourself with great people. Is it true that the circle gets smaller? The older you get, or the probably smarter you get?
I think that's true. I think as the older you get, you realize that you have a lot of people you're acquaintance with, but you only have a few really good friends. And you don't need more than a few, because you should have your family and a few good friends, and life is pretty full.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do think the tribe gets a little smaller. The maybe with age comes some wisdom, or maybe it's less of a inquisitive mode of trying to meet the next person to build your tribe, where you get very satisfied with the people you've filtered out over the years, right, to get to that group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you choose your tribe today?
I don't know if you choose it, right? I think it's like dating, right? Both sides have to have a say in it. Look, I like to be around people who are smart, have a high EQ, are compassionate, right? Or passionate about what they do, have great families, and really just love life, right? Doesn't mean they don't have bad days, but they're inspiring to be around. They're energizers, not energy absorbers.
Yeah. Have you had doubters during your career, and how have you dealt with those?
Yeah, I've always had doubters. Everybody has that.
We all do, right?
Yeah,
but sometimes they paralyze, certain people, and sometimes they motivate.
I don't get motivated. I just don't care.
Okay.
I don't get too worked up over it. No one can like everybody. And no one's going to believe in everybody. And, in my world, people sell your stock short when they're your doubters. And there's always been a short interest in every company I've been involved in. And, I wish them luck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a very clean, straightforward mindset. Yeah. That's very cool. What dreams do you still have today?
On a professional level, I would say, just finding more treatments for particularly diseases of blindness. I think as you think about the quality of life that people have when they can see versus when they can't see, it's pretty devastating. And so, there's so many diseases of the retina and whatnot that cause blindness. And to just be a part of a solution to that would be one of my, last big professional goals.
Wow. How about personal goals, personal dreams?
Well, at this point, this is probably my last job of this level, right? And so, I would love to make Bausch & Lomb the best eye health company in the world. I think we have all the ingredients to do that. We have to consistently focus on customer first and innovation. And if we can do that for a few years, I think we have a real opportunity to reach that level.
That takes me to what unprecedented, innovative changes are you seeing in eye care right now?
Oh, there's so much, particularly on the R&D side, where we're using, artificial intelligence to screen targets. We're looking at new genetic targets and ways of drugging those targets that didn't exist even a year or two ago. So, science is so advanced right now, and it's happening like Moore's law. It's like an exponential, pace of how quickly things that we thought were only going to happen in like Star Trek or Star Wars, right, are happening today. It's just really cool and exciting to see how quickly technology is developing around science.
In your long, amazing career you've had, Brent, what have you had to sacrifice to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I probably sacrificed, as I look back on it, spending time with my kids. Not enough time was probably the biggest personal sacrifice I made.
Have you had those conversations with them?
I have.
Yeah.
I probably could do more, but I have. But I'm in a good spot with all my kids, and I have a new baby to not make the same mistake twice. All right.
To learn, right?
To learn and do better with. And so life's interesting that way. But
very cool. So you married a Colombian woman.
I did.
Beautiful Colombian woman. Any funny stories?
Oh, don't get her angry.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Look, I love my wife more than anything. She's the best. And I said that with a smile. So in case she listens, I'm afraid. The best thing about a Colombian, in my opinion, is how passionate and caring and supportive they can be. She is, she's always worried about what I ate. She's worried about my eye infection. She's worried, she's always looking to make sure I'm okay. And it's the greatest partner in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brent, thank you so much for this amazing time. I had a lot of fun. One last advice you can tell people who want to achieve their dreams and who want to conquer their goals. Where do they start from your own success experience?
Honestly, if I was giving advice, I would say just have the courage to know you can do it, right? Kind of like your yes, you can, right? It comes from having that courage that take that first step, right? Start the journey. Believe in yourself, right? That doesn't mean things are always going to be easy. You're going to hit challenges, but just continue to believe in yourself and have that determination to just take 2 steps forward, even if every once in a while you have to take 1 back.
Yeah. Do you still feel fear sometimes about taking that first step? Does fear?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think everybody, anytime you do something for the first time, right? I don't know if it's fear or trepidation, a little anxious, but of course, yeah.
How do you overcome it now?
When I feel anxious or I'm doing something that is a little out of my comfort zone, I actually and I was just saying this to someone the other day. I sometimes just say, oh yeah, I have to run to the bathroom, and I take 5 big, diaphragm, breaths and just regulate myself and come back out, and you look calm as can be and, confident and ready to go. And like I said, you see a lot, I know a lot of these great leaders, and they make it look easy, but I promise you they're having doubts and anxieties and struggles. They just don't show it. And that's true with me too.
Yeah. And then as you were saying, take action, feel the fear and just do it anyways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's a book you always recommend?
Well, Grit by Andrew Duckworth. I just started reading, I don't know, it's the one I'm reading right now. It's called, it's a book about Alfred Adler's philosophy. He was a philosopher back in the time of Sigmund Freud. He was a contemporary. It's called, the ability not to be liked or something. It's in my bag, actually. I'm about halfway through it, but it's really about the whole philosophy of it. You'd mentioned it before. It's no one else's fault. It's not because your parents yelled at you or weren't good or this or that. You make that decision how you want to react to it. Everybody has bad things in life, some obviously worse than others, but don't be the victim. Be the solution, right? And it's a really fascinating book.
Yeah, it's not what happened to you. It's how you react to it. Yeah. Sometimes we can get caught up into the trauma, what dad did or what mom didn't do.
If you go back and look at it, there was Sigmund Freud and Adler, and Freud won, right? He wrote more papers. He was more popular. And Freud was more about, tell me about your past, what caused this. And so that is modern psychiatry, right? And Adler was a counterpoint of view, and he never wrote as much. He was more of a speaker. And so he never published as much. So his philosophy of, have courage, move forward, learn, never really became mainstream.
Talking about that, do you do any therapy, coaching? Is that part of your...
I don't. I go to the gym every day. Yes, I see you sometime. That's really important to me. That's my mental clarity, right? Like, get that out of the way. And when I don't go, I don't feel as good all day long. But no.
Yeah, I think everybody has a different type of therapy, right?
Like, you have to find something.
Yeah, something that aligns with
going
you.
To talk to somebody, therapist or whatever. It could be going for a run, reading a book in the sunlight in the morning, whatever it may be. Yeah.
What's a quote that you repeat yourself?
Oh, all the time.
A lot, all the time.
What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? So sometimes when I get in a rut, and I'm like, why isn't this working? I say, what am I doing it over and over again? And I'm expecting it there. I'm not insane. Let's try something different. Yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah.
I have one plaster on my door that says, what would you do if you had no fear? Which talks about that, just like, go and do it, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
I may steal that.
Yeah. It's like every single time that I open that door, because normally, I get into my head a lot, right? Oh my God, like, how am I going to approach this? Or I'm fearful, like I feel it right here. And I'm like, I see it. Okay, what would you do if you had no fear? Just fucking do it, right? Just
absolutely.
Take that first step.
That's the courage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brent. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for being part of this milestone with me. I hope this conversation reminded you that success is never one size fits all, as you saw. There's no single blueprint. But if we learn from those people like Brent who walk ahead of us, who start building, our own success. So until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and keep showing up for yourself. Yes, you can. Bye.